from New York, Diane Sawyer.
Good evening. There are few professional sports surrounded by more controversy than boxing, and there are no fighters more controversial than Mike Tyson. It seems from the time he became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, Tyson was destined for greatness and for trouble. Tyson's rematch with Evander Holyfield this past June won't be remembered for its boxing highlights, but for that incredible lowlight, the now infamous bite Tyson took out of the ear of his opponent. Well, tonight, in his first interview since that night, we hear what Tyson has to say. He sat down with our ABC Sports colleague and boxing analyst Alex Wallow to relive the night and the battles he's fought against his opponents and himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is showtime!
The waiting is over. The talking is done. The rematch is here.
I expect a tough, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Let's get it on!
There's no doubt about it. I totally lost it.
Holyfield hit by a dirty Mike Tyson.
It was extreme. It was some serious stuff going on in my head then. Some serious stuff.
Mike was having his best round. He did it again.
It snapped, and I was no longer fighting under the rules.
For a sport that's had more than its share of bad moments, the heavyweight championship on June 28th was perhaps an all-time low. The end of the fight was outrageous and grotesque. What should have been a great battle turned into a sick joke.
It is complete bedlam, and Tyson is just taking swipes at anybody in front of him.
The public's revulsion to Tyson's bizarre behavior was strangely more intense than it had been to his rape conviction 5 years earlier. The moment transcended sports.
Tonight, Mike Tyson. Has he finally gone too far?
I saw the fight.
Even President Clinton spoke out about the awful turn of events.
And I was horrified by it. Members of the commission?
The Nevada Boxing Commission responded to the incident with the largest fine in the history of sports, $3 million and a ban from boxing.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Tyson can apply to be reinstated, but there is no guarantee that he will ever box again. 2 days after the incident, Tyson appeared at a press conference where he read from a statement written by his public relations consultant.
Evander, I'm sorry. You're a champion. I respect that.
That was nearly 4 months ago, and it was Tyson's last public comment. He has refused to be interviewed until he sat down with us last Tuesday in New York City. First of all, have you watched the fight since it happened?
I've seen it, yes.
And what was your reaction when you saw what you did?
Really? Oh,
Instead of the well-scripted Tyson we saw in his apology, Mike was surprisingly open. Can you describe what was going through your mind during the fight?
anything from any kind of functional thinking or any kind of rational thinking was totally out the window. I don't know what happened that night. I just don't know what happened. It's pretty embarrassing.
What happened here?
He got bit, I think.
Evander Holyfield, look out! He's pushed right here, above us by Tyson. Oh my goodness, he's got a bloody right ear. Holyfield bit by a dirty Mike Tyson.
Once the boundaries were crossed, I had no more respect for the rules or the principles of the rules, and it was just open game.
Mike Tyson has beaten Evander Holyfield for the second time, and it is all-out war.
I just totally lost it. You know, I just totally lost it.
In this case, though, you lost it once, bit him once, spit out a piece of his ear on the canvas. A lot of people say, okay, then he came out and did it the second time. And they think that means that you really wanted to get disqualified because you thought you were going to get beat.
I don't believe that at all. You know, I never took the easy way out. You know, man, I take my beatings like a man. Just the fact I taste blood, I tripped, and I was just in a zone. I was in that real serious, frantic zone. But I think the way I struck out in return, that was just something that was unacceptable.
According to Tyson, he retaliated for what he thought were illegal headbutts by Holyfield, which the referee did nothing to stop. Early in the second round, this clash of heads caused a deep gash over Tyson's right eye.
There's a cut around the right eye of Mike Tyson.
Tyson believed the cut would cause the referee to stop the fight.
I said, well, this is the round I have to do. I have to win this round big, go for a knockout. I was in trouble. He was butting me. I was blacking out, and I was pretty desperate.
You know boxing history. There have been a lot of desperate fighters, but there's never been an incident like that before. Why do you think it was you that took it to that extent, or did that kind of a really crazy, sick kind of thing?
I don't know. I think I'm the most extremist fighter that ever lived. I just think that's just who I am.
Do you think you lost it because you were so in such desperate straits that you were sure you were going to get beat?
I wasn't worried about getting beat because I was in incredible shape. As a matter of fact, he was on the verge of being knocked out in that round and beat up in that round. But I was just in such a frenzy that I just took it to the other level.
Do you feel that his headbutting was intentional?
Absolutely, I believe it was intentional. Evander Holyfield is a specialist in headbutting. You know what I mean? There's been a great deal of complaints about him from George Foreman and other fighters. And I just never thought that a headbutt could occur in so much damage. I had never experienced anything like that before.
At the training center for the 1984 Olympics, where Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield met, the two outsiders became friends. 12 years later, they met in the ring for the first time as professionals. In a remarkable upset, Holyfield dominated Tyson and scored an 11th round TKO. 7 months later, their rematch produced a disgraceful ending and Tyson's second loss to Holyfield. What is your opinion of Evander Holyfield after going through the 2 fights with him?
Oh, he's great. He's a sensational fighter.
And do you still admire him, and do you still have some feelings for him, like you did when you were friends during the amateurs?
We were kids then. I have feelings for no one. I mean, he's sensational. He's a great fighter. It's just that I never, it's very rare you meet a fighter who could rise to the occasion on certain events. And I used to always admire somebody who just know what they want and just could rise to that occasion and just swipe it away.
And he's that type of fighter?
Oh, absolutely.
You've called him twice to speak to him? Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah. Just,
and he hasn't returned your calls. If he did return your call, what would you say to him?
He didn't return my calls, and so I guess he believed it wasn't sincere, so I probably wouldn't accept his call as well.
Until he applies for reinstatement of his license next July, Tyson's boxing future is totally up in the air. Do you want to fight again?
I sure want to fight. You know, I've done that all my life. Of course I want to fight.
Do you expect when you try to have your license reinstated by the Nevada Commission, do you expect that you will be successful in that effort?
Truly, I don't know. I really don't think. I think I'll be banned for the rest of my life.
You really believe that?
Yeah, I truly don't.
Why?
I truly think everyone hates me. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. Because no one gets punished more than I am. But I'm understanding that I'm a big boy, and I believe big boys have big ordeals to be dealt with. You know what I mean? Taking this time off has did a wonder of good for me. Yes, I'm reaching and finding the soul of myself, and I think I'm going to be all right.
Now most people, according to some of the polls that have been done, think that you should be barred for life. What would you say to those people about why you should be reinstated, why you should be allowed to fight again?
I really wish that I was at liberty to say what I truly wanted to say, but I guess I'm not.
Well, you're at liberty. Go ahead and say it.
Them. That's how I truly feel about them. They want to see people beg and mercy and just be at their mercy. I'm not that way with anyone. This is who I am. And maybe sometimes it's an insecurity. I want to be a defined person. That's part of my insecurity. But, you know, that's just who I am. I can't help who I am.
Can you give assurances to people and to the Nevada Commission that it won't happen again? Do you feel sure in your heart that you would never do that again?
Listen, nothing's an insurance, okay? Nothing's an insurance in life. But it's going to be hard. There's going to be many years before people forget that.
It was hard to watch, Mike. I mean, it was hard to watch you bite off a piece of a guy's ear and spit it out on the ring floor.
It's hard for me to watch it. You think it's hard for you to watch it. You watch it in a joking manner. People watch it in a joking manner. I have to watch it in a manner of disgust, disdain, and just semi-humiliation.
Disgust and disdain for yourself that you did it?
Exactly, yes.
Did you feel that you lost your dignity that night in Las Vegas?
No, because dignity is what people think of you. Principles are what you think of yourself. And it's what I thought of myself was like, wow, I shouldn't have done that. Because that was just striking out and totally hatred right there. But making this, I shouldn't have done that. Because for that one moment, I just forgot he was a human being.
And Mike Tyson has a lot more to say to Alex Wallow when Primetime continues.
Get set for some uncharted territory. Mike Tyson on his personal life, his inner demons, and the critics' jabs that constantly come his way.
Well, they do roll off your back, but they do skid marks.
And later, it's a slam dunk. Chris Wallace, Michael Jordan, and a little one-on-one when Primetime continues. Primetime continues. Now from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
What makes a man get into a ring to endure the punishment of a fight? It seems that boxers have often come from society's underclass. The reason? It's their only ticket to fortune. And Mike Tyson is no different. Tyson has at times made more money than any other athlete in America. But it didn't start that way. ABC Sports' Alex Wallow continues his exclusive interview with Mike Tyson.
Most people I would play from the lowest circumstances socially in America, probably.
Mike Tyson grew up in Brooklyn amidst grinding poverty and crime. At age 12, after a series of arrests, he landed in a New York reformatory where he decided he wanted to make boxing a part of his life. He met the legendary trainer Cus D'Amato, who was so impressed with the young Tyson, he not only taught him to box, but also became his legal guardian.
I feel that all boys growing up in the environment that he did would require help, patience, and perhaps understanding, because I tried to make him feel, and I hope I did, that I understand this kind of life. I grew up in a tough neighborhood myself.
But he never saw his student become a champion. 8 months into Tyson's pro career, Cus D'Amato died of pneumonia.
A lot of things would have been different if Cus was around, but the fact is he wasn't meant to be around. I was meant to be my own man and deal with my own situations.
Uppercut, and Marvis is hurt. Razor is down.
He would beat opponent after opponent, compiling an unbeaten record.
Now he's in trouble here.
At age 20, Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history.
And down he goes.
There was no one in sight to beat Mike Tyson except Mike Tyson, which is exactly what happened.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robin Givens and Mike Tyson.
First, his storybook marriage. A street kid wed to glamorous actress Robin Givens, tumbled in the tabloids with reports of domestic violence, and then hit rock bottom when his wife ambushed him during an unforgettable Barbara Walters interview.
What's it been like, this roller coaster?
It's been torture. It's been pure hell.
A week after the interview, Givens filed for divorce.
We were two young kids that shouldn't have been married in the first place. Unfortunately, we were two celebrities, and we got married and things didn't work out. You know what I mean?
Are you capable of feeling remorse for things you've done wrong in those situations?
Of course I'm remorseful, you know what I mean? Because I'm more considerate for people's feelings than they are about mine. Because people have the opinion of me that I'm granite and nothing, maybe because I give that appearance. Because mostly that's my defense mechanism.
But if you let the defense mechanism go, what's underneath the granite exterior?
Well, I mean, I'm a very much a very simple human being, very fragile.
You're very fragile?
Yeah. But just as I'm fragile and kind, I'm also ruthless and malicious. I have to defend myself.
Mike?
Simple human being, very fragile.
You're very fragile?
Yeah. But just as I'm fragile and kind, I'm also ruthless and malicious. I have to defend myself.
Mike's self-destruction included an early morning street brawl that left his opponent battered and Mike with a broken hand. A car crash sent him to the emergency room with a concussion. Headlines questioned his violent relationships with women, and Mike took out his frustrations in public.
You give sometimes the impression that these things just roll off your back, but deep down, do they affect you?
Well, they do roll off your back, but they leave skid marks.
In 1992, a jury convicted Mike Tyson of rape. Even his own attorney called him an animal. He went from the highest paid athlete in the world to a prison inmate. 3 years later, he left prison, a converted Muslim, to even bigger celebrity and bigger paydays, earning the most money of any athlete in America, nearly $75 million in 1996 alone. He kept his life clean outside the ring, which had always held the most danger for him. But ironically, inside the ring, where he had always found a safe haven, he ended up that Saturday night in Las Vegas in total disgrace.
He just reaches in and bites him.
In your apology, you spoke about getting help. What have you done about that?
Well, I discussed some issues with some prominent psychiatrists, and
are you going through it, just going through the motions, or do you really think that you need to change some things about yourself?
Sometimes changing is scary, and maybe some things about my life is kind of scary to change. And you may feel a little helpless in changing, but you know, we're working on it. I don't know why I'm afraid to change. I change in increments, you know, in time periods, and it's not going to happen just overnight.
But do you think it's a necessary thing?
I think change is necessary. And I can tell you, well, this thing is working, and I'm great, and I'm going to be a great person, and I may even go for Congress, and I may do this. But that's not the reality of the situation.
Do you believe in your heart that you do have a problem that you need to change, or you just...
Oh, yeah, I know I have a problem. There's no doubt about that. I guess I am extremely bored.
See, people can't understand how you can be bored. You have homes all over the world. You have access to any place you want to go. You have the money to take advantage of it. And for Joe Sixpack or blue-collar working people, they just can't imagine that you can be bored. Explain that.
I'm pretty much an extremist in everything. These are all or nothing, and I don't. Maybe that's. And I think, and I feel that's kind of a sickness, being that way. And it caused a lot of problems in my life. A lot of problems.
What kind of problems?
You just never get enough of anything, and it caused a lot of personal problems. A lot of people who I believe cared about me, and I believed I cared about them. We no longer associate in that matter anymore. You know, and you just lose the essence of things that are so simple, like love or friendship. You totally just forget about those. The essence of that is totally lost sometimes, I believe.
But you're not going to change it if you don't want to change it.
We'll see. I'm not God. You know, I would like to be a stable person. That's what I am. I'm not a stable person. You know, I'm pretty sporadic and spontaneous, and it's very difficult for people, to be honest, even for people who are my friends and people who are manipulators, people who just hang on. It's very difficult for people to get along with me and be around me.
In April, Tyson married Dr. Monica Turner, who lives in Maryland with their children.
Is it tough for you to have a reasonable marriage, have a reasonable relationship, given what you've said about yourself?
Yes, I'm a difficult person to live with. You know, I mean, she doesn't have an easy time with me.
Is the relationship working?
Pretty much so. But because she's putting more work in than I am. But she's a good woman. I really hate to lose her, you know, it's just a part of life, things like that happen, but I truly hate to lose her.
Do you think that's a possibility?
Anything's a possibility in life, but if I do, it would just be my fault. It's just the way it is. That's who I am, it would be my fault.
And what does his wife have to say about the state of their relationship? That when we return.
When we come back, you'll meet for the first time Mike Tyson's wife and children and see a side of Tyson you rarely see.
I think that people are just too hard on him. I think that they shouldn't be so judgmental of him because he's really a sweet and real caring person.
When prime time continues. So married to Mike Tyson. And for the first time, she'll talk about her life with one of the most controversial men in sports today.
We just did different things. I mean, I went to medical school. He was a boxer, but we're not that different as far as people.
And later, He's the greatest athlete today, and he certainly is paid well. But how does Michael Jordan feel?
Let's just say I'm happy.
How happy?
I'm smiling.
You'll smile, too, when Primetime continues after this from our ABC stations. Primetime. Now from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
The day after our interview, Mike Tyson was involved in a motorcycle accident that sent him to the hospital. 2 days later, he was released, and the next day, Tyson called and said he wanted us to come to his Connecticut estate and sit down again, this time with his wife, something he's never done before, to discuss the injury and their life together. The two met in the mid-'80s, and she visited him throughout his prison term. Once again, here's Alex Wallow.
How do you see the state of the relationship right now?
Our relationship is growing. I mean, we have kids, and, you know, when we first met, it was different. You know, it was more like a dating thing. Now we have family. I think our relationship is great. It's great, but it's just getting better as time goes on.
Dr. Monica Turner is a pediatric intern at Georgetown Hospital. 2 nights ago, we spoke with them at their Farmington, Connecticut home, one of 4 they own. They were surrounded by 3 of their children, their baby son Amir, who was 3 months old, Raina, 20 months, and Monica's child from a previous relationship, Gina, age 8.
What initially attracted you to him?
Initially, I didn't know him as a person, but I just liked his outgoing character. I liked that about him, and I thought he was cute.
You think I was outgoing?
Were you? How'd you see it initially?
I never got a chance to know that well when our mutual friends introduced us to one another. But I just thought it was a pretty girl that probably I was going to score on. I never really got into it that way, because I used to matter, yeah.
But did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think you would end up marrying a doctor?
I didn't know it was going to be a doctor. I never really, listen, I always had enough money for me and whoever wanted to be with me, so it really didn't matter who it was, it's who I basically vied with.
How do you see the relationship working with 2 people coming from such disparate kind of backgrounds?
We just did different things. I mean, I went to medical school. He was a boxer, but we're not that different as far as people. I mean, we're both down to earth, and he's a real genuine person. That's one of the things I love about him.
Most people would assume she had to marry him for his money.
I really don't care what they think, to be honest. I mean, if they think that, I really don't care. I mean, I love him for him, you know, and I've known him for a long time, and I've known him when things were good, when things were bad, and I just love him either way. I mean, we have a family, we have kids, and that's what I wanted. And
you want more?
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2.
You?
Maybe.
They certainly have enough space for a larger family. Built on 17 acres, this Connecticut mansion has 61 rooms, 18 bedrooms, 38 baths, 7 kitchens, a disco, indoor racquetball court, indoor pool, gym, private screening room, and a master bedroom with 5 televisions. Friends use it more than the Tysons, and it's now on the market for $22 million.
It's fun, but, you know, this is not my style. This is not me. I stayed here probably 4 times. This is probably my 5th time here. And it's so ironic that we have an interview here because I was taking a trip up here with some bike riding friends of mine, and then the incident happened.
That incident occurred last Wednesday when Tyson had a motorcycle accident getting off a Connecticut highway. He was hospitalized with broken ribs and a punctured lung and released 2 days later. What caused the accident?
I fell asleep, but I was riding all day, and for that split second, I woke up and I was on top of my friend, so I had to throw the bike down before I went. I didn't want to run him over.
This was not a case of you driving your motorcycle too fast.
No, I was going too slow.
You were going too slow?
Yeah. You know, I've been in an accident. I've been in a couple of accidents already. That wasn't really a bad accident.
Tyson told us he won't take his doctor's advice to rest for 6 weeks. Instead, he'll return to training and riding his motorcycle next week.
Does he project himself sometimes as a tough guy and as a person who, you know, is Iron Mike Tyson and, you know, that kind of thing? And
sometimes he has to.
Yeah.
You know, he has to. Sometimes he's...
I never expect you to say that. That's just how I feel. That you just have to protect yourself out there. I'm glad you said that.
That's how I feel. I mean, you have to do that sometimes. So.
Are you surprised that she understands that part?
Yeah, I'm surprised that she said that, made that statement.
I think people are just too hard on him. I think that they shouldn't be so judgmental of him because he's really a sweet and real caring person. He's a good guy. And I think people are just too hard on him.
Is there a part of you that hopes he doesn't get reinstated so that you can have a life where he doesn't get involved in boxing?
No, I just want him to do what makes him happy. And if he wants to continue to box, that's what I want him to do. You know, it's scary and I get nervous and I don't want him to, if he's going to do it, I don't want him to do it long because I want us to be able to settle down and have a, just family life all the time instead of, when he's not training and things. But if it makes him happy to do it, that's what I want him to do.
Is it possible, do you think, for the two of you ever to have a normal life, given who he is and what he's all about?
Oh, as normal as it can be. I mean, as far as you don't have the privacy and that kind of thing that normal people have, he just doesn't have that. But as far as in the house, when we're in the house, our life is normal. We've got kids and he plays with his children. He's a good father. And in the house, he's different. He's just daddy.
A good dad.
Tyson told us he's received offers to fight in several foreign countries, including China and Romania, but will not fight until the Nevada Boxing Commission restores his license. Meanwhile, Evander Holyfield fights on. The champ is defending his title against Michael Moore this Saturday night in Las Vegas.